Welcome to the 10-Minute Treasurer. My name is Jeff Pospisil, and this is part of my Church Foundation series where I've been looking through a great example of a good church foundation. It was Grand Forks Wesley United Methodist Church, their foundation, and they had such a great governing documents that I wanted to share them. And that was a good way for if you want to set up your own church foundation, or maybe you want to refine some of the things that aren't working for you. This would be a good template to use. So I'm going to make the template for those bylaws for the foundation available to you. And that's what I'm walking through. And right now I'm going through meetings, officers, and committees. The first area we're looking at is the meetings. And there's always going to be at least an annual meeting where you elect the officers for the next year. And I like it that it lays it out. If you're serving as an officer, it's a year-by-year commitment. So it's a good way to transition off if you have to. And then the other one is the regular meetings of the board of directors. And every quarter is what they have them meeting, which is nice because you normally get quarterly investment statements. So it's a good way to keep current on what's happening with the markets and maybe the results of some of our decisions, but we're not meeting all the time either when it's unnecessary. There's still a provision, even though we're meeting quarterly, there's a provision if you need to have a special meeting and how that comes about. So if there's an urgent request that needs our attention, we can go ahead and address that if we need to, and without waiting for the end of the quarter. One of the smartest things that Grand Forks Wesley did was they had this provision already before the pandemic on how they can meet electronically. And it just follows North Dakota state law, but it's a smart deal that parrots a lot of that law, that you have to be able to listen and be able to respond electronically. So they were well prepared for the pandemic. Then there is this notice of board meeting. And I do like that, especially when you get down to the special meetings. The special meeting, you should know what the purpose of the meeting is well in advance, and that is the only thing that should be discussed at that time. So it's nice to set that expectation too, but just even the notice of the meeting. And I would even want to know before my regular meetings what the agenda is at least 48 hours in advance, if not further in advance. The next one is one I hadn't really ever thought about before. It's unanimous consent action by board. And what this allows you to do is by unanimous consent, everybody agreeing, you can cancel a regular meeting. You know, that's probably the most common use of it, is if there's really no business, can we just email out the financial statements and agree not to meet? And if everybody's good with that, then it's okay to cancel a regular meeting. The quorum at board meetings. To take action, you need a quorum, and a quorum is defined different ways depending on your organization. So you do need to always have that defined. Is it a majority of the directors, period? So if you have 9 directors, 5 would be the quorum that you need, or is it the quorum of the directors that are attending or present at the meeting? So you might have 9 directors, but you only have 5 that are able to make it to that meeting, so your quorum would be 3 then. So a big difference there, but it's great to define that. And then this one just says we're following Robert's Rules of Order. I also like this one too as a way of expediting business. It's the electronic approval of funding requests. And it just basically gives you an idea of how you can do an email vote for members on a funding request. So a really smart thing that they did. So again, you don't have to meet all the time. So if a funding request comes up, or maybe you just didn't settle one at your regular meeting and you're waiting for follow-up information, then you can go ahead and vote on it through email. So a very smart idea. Now we're going to switch over to the officers, and this is an important part just from a corporation standpoint. You always got to list your officers anyway, and this just starts on who are the officers. You got your chairperson, your vice chair, the secretary, and the treasurer. And these again are elected annually, and the next part we're going to go into defining what their duties are. So we start off with the chairperson, and the chairperson, I like this, they are the chief policy officer. I'm guessing that that means that they are responsible for making sure the policies are followed that we've already been talking about. They are the chairperson of, I see we have a typo there, not Al's meetings, but all meetings. And then they also serve, and I think this is important, if you have other committees that serve under the board, they are ex officio on all those ones. The duties of the vice chairperson is basically to act in the absence of the chairperson. And I wouldn't doubt that there would be opportunity to also share some of the ex officio duties to the other committees as well. The duties of the secretary, and I like this, the secretary is the one for providing notices, for preparing the agendas and all other materials for the board of directors. So normally that seems like it falls on a staff person in my world, or it falls on the chairperson in a lot of cases, but here it says that's the duty of the secretary. So they keep the minutes, they keep the records of all the actions of the board, but then they are also responsible for giving out notices and preparing the agendas and other materials. The treasurer is responsible for handling the money and making the reports accordingly. So that's pretty cut and dry there. Next, we're going to look at the committees. And you might say, well, why would a church foundation need committees as well as a board of directors? Well, there are some foundations that they're very active. You know, maybe they have some staff. Maybe they're large enough where they might have somebody on an investment committee and somebody on a policies committee and somebody on a marketing committee and somebody on maybe a human resources committee, something to that effect. So there might be a good reason. Many church foundations, though, they'll likely just have a board of directors and they'll handle most of that within themselves. So for this one, the one thing I did notice is that every committee shall consist of 2 or more directors and always a majority of directors among its members. So that's this part right here. I do like that, by the way. I think that's kind of the same thing with the church board too. This is kind of an aside, but if let's say I got a leadership board, I would say the majority of people on the finance committee should be on that leadership board as well. Same way with trustees, because that way you ensure alignment is really what that ensures, is that your leaders at the board level are also in leadership at the committee level. And then it also makes some provision for special committees and also sunsets them, which is kind of nice, that once their task is done, they shall be discharged to their duty. And the last one we're looking at, and this is just to give some direction to the committees. What are their duties? What are their responsibilities? What is their authority? And it spells that out. And it even talks about the quorums again. And if you invite special people, individuals, to the committee, such as, like, let's say you have an investment committee, inviting your investment manager onto there. Anyway, it's just nice to spell out some of these things, and so I'm glad that Grand Forks Wesley went through the work of doing that. That does bring us to the end. Same as always, I'm going to link those bylaws to the template that we're looking at. I'm going to put that right in the description. And, you know, I hope this has helped you. I hope it has helped you think through some of this process. And until next time, God bless you.